Good morning, everyone. Jai
Jai
Guru.
Guru.
So lovely to have, these monthly satsangs for some of us don't come soon enough. It's just lovely to see you every month. And it's lovely that each one of us have the opportunity to host you every month. Welcome, Nayaswamis Jyotish and Devi. Always a blessing to have you. Today, we are going to be talking about, or at least receiving from you, about the 5 essential attitudes for spiritual success. You don't have to stop at 5. As many as you tell us, we get more options. Like, oh, I don't like that attitude. So if I have an alternative, I'm always happy. But before we begin, let's just start with a chant. Let the rest of our brothers and sisters pour in. Would you please lead us in a prayer?
Just follow along mentally. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, great masters, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswar, beloved Guru, Paramahansa Yoganandaji, saints of all religions, we humbly bow to you all. Beloved masters, bless us with thy presence, with thy guiding hand, with thy grace, that we may expand our consciousness until it can merge with thee. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Should we start with our song, or should we do a short little meditation? What would you prefer?
Whichever, you have a song?
We have a song. We have
Let's
If You're
do.
Seeking Freedom.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay. Don't mind the angle of the camera. It's too close, and so it'll be a little weird, but we'll manage.
If you're seeking freedom in a revolution, or if you're seeking freedom, you won't find it there. For once the guns stop blazing, you'll find it amazing how the world can drag on just as before. If you're seeking freedom on a throne of power, or if you're seeking freedom, you won't find it there. For even when it's sunny, you'll be counting money, keeping up that showcase your face lined with care. And if you're seeking freedom on a throne of power, oh, if you're seeking freedom, you won't find it there. For though men all obey you, what if they betray you? Hence you'll be unwaiting for foes everywhere. But if you're seeking freedom, cast away desires. Why barter like a beggar? You've wealth everywhere. For never can you buy it, grasp when you deny it. Freedom can't be hoarded, it's free as the air. And if you're seeking freedom, seek it on the mountains. Got sunlight on your shoulders, the wind in your hair. For there's no one can hold you, boast about or mold you. Once your heart is free, you'll be king everywhere. For there's no one can hold you, boast about or mold you. Once your heart is free, you'll be king everywhere.
Almost.
It was nice, and nice to see you. Bara and Shamini, we haven't seen you for quite some time. It was nice to see you.
And just all of our dear friends from India who are on the screen. We can't greet you individually, but just know it is such a joy to see you, and we miss you all. There's our spiritual home is India, and we miss being there. We hope to come in February. So I guess we'll begin with Shurjo and Narayani asked us to, just as a way of beginning the conversation, to talk about, each of us speak of 5 sort of key attitudes or practices that we have found helpful in the spiritual journey. So we'll alternate. Jyotish will do one, then I'll do one.
So I think for me, perhaps the central attitude is having a truly sincere, my desire. So it's individualized and it's sincere to find liberation or an expansion of consciousness. I think that's what drew me to the path in the first place. It was not religious in my case, or spiritual. I couldn't say that, but I was always interested in consciousness. And then when I came on the autobiography of a yogi, it just so expanded my understanding of what the potential of consciousness was. And that released in me a number of things. So kind of like dominoes falling, it released in me the desire to go deeper, the desire to really make an effort, a personal effort for this. But I think really it all started with an individual and sincere desire for liberation. I wouldn't have called it that at that point, but it certainly was that.
So the first point I'll share is kind of a theme that's run through my life ever since I came to Ananda, and that's just to make the guru the central focus in everything I did. Just feel like I'm offering up my actions, my successes, my failures, the mistakes I make, whatever good I might do. So just to keep the guru central. And, you know, Swami wrote a beautiful essay included in the book, I can't remember the name of the book it's in, but the essay is called Why I Love My Guru, Religion in the New Age. And the last line of it is, he has been and is now more than ever my nearest and dearest companion. When I am right, I feel his support. I feel his smile. When I am wrong, I feel he is on my side, helping me to overcome delusion. And that's it, just to cling to the guru at all times. In fact, especially when we're uncertain spiritually, and know that he is trying to keep you, to help you break the bonds of delusion. So I think that's a big one for me.
Yeah, that was much like the second one on my little list, which was attunement with the guru. So attunement varies maybe a little bit from what Devi was talking about in terms of the connection with. Attunement to me means making a positive effort to align your consciousness and your will with that of, in our case, Master and Swami. And that it comes in a variety of ways. It comes primarily by listening to their voice or reading what they have to say. But even more than that, it comes in meditation by trying to offer my individual will into their will, or after meditation techniques, to offer my consciousness into the light and feel that they're in that light surrounding me. But that active attempt to attune to the guru, I would say, is the supreme attitude for me.
And then my next one that I'll go on to is committing to the longer rhythm of the spiritual journey. In other words, I remember Nayaswamis Jaya, who I think is with you all now. I heard him say once, and it seemed such a beautiful way to express it, God, I don't know what I've done in the past, I don't know what I'll do in the future, but this life is for you. And that's a good commitment to make. We can dedicate one life. We don't know where we've come from or where we're going. And just, you know, Jyotish and I have been on the path for more than 50 years, started in our early 20s. And I can't tell you the joy I feel when I look at Master's picture and just said, we're gonna make it, we're gonna make it in this lifetime. There isn't that much time left, and however much there is left, we're not going anywhere. So if you just make the commitment, this life is for you, God. And that's been a real helpful thought. Not to, you see, devotees may come and devotees may go, and you see it a lot. But if we can just say, God, no matter what you throw at me, I'm not going anywhere.
And again, my next one is similar to that, but different. And I would say the next attitude is consistency and determination. That, you know, times, your moods change, your energy changes, your health changes, everything can go through change. But if you allow every little change to somehow determine whether you're going to meditate or whether you're going to serve or whether you're going to make an effort, then circumstances will just take you away from your goal, from your priorities. And so consistency of effort, whether you want to meditate or not, go into the meditation room in the morning. Whether you're tired in the evening or not, go into the meditation room in the evening, and just make that consistent effort. And over a period of time, it builds and builds until it's almost like the universe won't allow you to be inconsistent anymore. If you fall asleep and you haven't finished your evening meditation, you'll wake up out of a sleep in order to go in and do your kriyas. So it takes effort at first, and then you get the power of the universe behind you. But you don't get that unless you're consistent and unless you break through a lot of little hurdles, self-created little envelopes. You have to keep breaking through those with your will until finally it becomes, I can't say effortless. You still always have to make an effort, but nothing like having to overcome the inertia of getting back if you've allowed something to fall away.
Okay, the next one I'll talk about is to find the strength to meet every challenge, because Divine Mother is going to keep giving each one of us tests until we're free. And if you can go face life as our master, our guru was, he was a warrior, he was a conqueror, he was Arjuna, he was William the Conqueror. He knew how to be victorious in battle. So to go into life with a sense of victory, that you will overcome. I have a good friend who I was talking with recently, and she tends to be, she's a deep devotee, many years. She tends to be a little bit nervous, like when things go wrong, she gets a little bit nervous about it. And she's just gone through a series of tests. She was telling me her husband was very ill. She had to take him to the emergency room. The battery on the car was dead. Something big broke in their house. And she looked at me and I thought, oh my goodness, how's she going to handle all this? She looked at me with this big smile and she said, you know what I thought? I said, no. She said, I thought, you know what? It's all going to be okay. And I thought, good for you. Good for you. And so whatever comes, just look inside and say, don't say, oh no, why this? This is terrible. You look to the source. The source of everything is God and Guru. And if you say, this is coming from you, the husband's in a medical crisis, the car battery is dead, Master, I'm going to do this and it's going to be okay. And so just to face life with this sense of a conquering hero. And the more you do that, the more you find that things just, you're not tested so much because there's no more to test. God sees, okay, she can handle it, he can handle it. So just to look at the challenges of life and find that extra level of strength that you didn't know you had.
And I would say another quality, and I've seen this in every one of the long-term members and devotees at Ananda, is that we have dedicated our life to this work, to serving this work. That in the sense that we all feel that it truly is a divine mission, that Master came with a very, very important work in this time to uplift human consciousness, to bring into the forefront of spiritual search, the meditation, direct contact with God, and that Swamiji dedicated his life to furthering that mission, to know God and to share God, is the way Swami put it. And long-term members of Ananda have dedicated their lives to that. And then once you dedicate your life to that, you have to also be willing to sacrifice some individual goals, sacrifice some likes and dislikes. You just need to buckle down and get the job done, no matter what it takes. But it really is, it stems from a decision made and then repeatedly put into practice to make sure that you are a channel for Master's work in this world, and that you've dedicated, if not your entire life, at least you've dedicated the foreseeable future to that goal.
And we're coming down to the last 2 points for each, well, last one for you, 2 more for me. So this one I want to share, and this is something that Swami Kriyananda really taught me, is to look for the joy and wonder in the world, in everything, in the world around you. You could hear it in the music that they sang, but you couldn't go anywhere with Swamiji without him finding something remarkable, some incredible connection that would happen, or just a beautiful sunset, or whatever it would be, a beautiful, because he was immersed in God. And so he was seeing the world through God's eyes, and it was like joy and wonder. And so make an effort to do that. The spiritual path is not grim. It should be a joyful experience, and look for it in, I mean, I can't tell you, living here in this spiritual community, the marvelous things that happen and the funny things that happen. Then there's little wild foxes that are out and about now, and they're stealing people's shoes. And people will go out on their porch and there'll be a little fox holding a shoe in their mouth, and they run away, and then they only have one shoe left. But it's just the world is full of wonderful, joyful things. Not that losing your shoes is wonderful and joyful, but just that a little fox would come and steal them. How absolutely delightful. And just to look for the magic in the world, because it's there. And we can go through life and we can just be shut down and make it be real methodical and even efficient. But that's not what life is about. Life is to find joy and to see that joy all around you. Okay, last one for Jyotish.
Last one for me is something that Swamiji was such a beautiful model for, and that's just kindness and support for everybody. Doesn't matter whether you know them, whether you don't, just to have a radiation of kindness and sincere caring about their welfare. And we saw him demonstrate it to complete strangers, one time we were with him walking down the street in Los Angeles, and there was a older lady kind of bent over and just looked like she was just weary of the day, weary of life.
And very much alone.
And very much alone. And Swamiji, just as we approached her, he said, "Oh, what a beautiful scarf you're wearing." It wasn't particularly beautiful, but Swami certainly made it seem as if it were. He said, "What a beautiful scarf you're wearing." He said, "You know, when you wear something beautiful like that, it's as if you're giving a gift to the world." And she just lit up. She was so happy that somebody noticed her, that cared about her. And Swami didn't make a big thing out of it. After we passed her, he just kind of casually mentioned, she looked so downcast, but he didn't, "Oh, I'm beaming kindness." It was just a natural way of acting. And it's just a habit that or an attitude, and then the habit. It doesn't cost you a single thing, doesn't cost you time or money or anything to be kind to people. And it brings a kind of a joyful, uplifting spirit into the world, whereas the opposite just darkens the world. So that just natural sense of kindness to everybody.
So I'll do my last point, and I want you all to know we didn't see each other's list before we started. So if there's overlap, it's just.
We have to hide things from each other, otherwise we steal the other person's material.
But just to tell another story, you may have heard us say that this isn't my last point, but I'm tagging on to Jyotish. Once Swamiji had just had some major surgery. He had hip replacement surgery. So he was in a wheelchair and he couldn't walk. We were in the room with him and he said, "Oh, I'd like to get out of the room. Can you wheel me around the hospital floor?" So we, of course, got him in his wheelchair and we were wheeling him. And at the very end of the corridor, there was this old man. He was a patient there, but he was in a wheelchair, but he was strapped to the wheelchair because otherwise he would have fallen over. And he just had a very vacant look on his face, like, kind of mouth open and eyes blank. And Swami said, "Oh, let's go see that man." So we wheeled Swami over and he just looked at that man. I mean, miracles. And he said, "Good morning." And it was like it was like he awoke from a sleep of decades, and he opened his eyes and he looked at Swami. I mean, there was nobody home. And he looked at him and he said, "Good morning." And that was all. That was all that happened. Then Swami said, "Okay, let's go back to the room now." But that's an extreme case, but everybody's locked in their little world. And what Swami did was open a door so people could see a bigger world. And my last point is sort of similar. And again, learn this from Swamiji, to try to see the best in everyone, no matter how badly they behave or what they say or how they hurt you or betray you or whatever. Try to understand them and try to see the best in them. Swami never, ever gave up on anybody. As long as they were trying, he would honor the best in them and the highest in them. So in dealing with other people, so much suffering in life comes from our interaction with people. Once I said to Jyotish, if I had I said a penny, but we could say if I had a rupee for every tear that I have seen shed about people's broken hearts or sadness because of how someone had treated them, we would have a lot of money. And so that's people are in error, people do the best they can, but if we can always try to see the higher aspect of them, then we're free. We're not trapped by their delusion. So live in the world with joy, with love for everybody, and try to see the best in them. So that's what we did on our summer vacation this lifetime. So
Thank you so much. I was just thinking about this topic of attitudes. A group of us have been studying Swamiji's discipleship notes, the monastic training lessons that he wrote while he was at SRF, and just right attitude just occupies such a huge space in those lessons. And somewhere Swamiji writes in there that right attitude is more important even than good karma. In fact, it is so powerful that it can transform bad karma into good karma. So is there any such episode that comes to you from your mind or from your life where there was something that was just seemingly so heavy and so difficult, and where that transformation perhaps took place, where that very thing became your salvation, so to speak?
Yeah, but I just want to comment on what you were saying of Swami. One could say that bad karma, the purpose of bad karma is to get you to have right attitude. And it will keep coming again and again and again until you change your attitude. And it's all our attitude. It's all our reaction to things, our way of dealing with things. So, there have been many, many, many incidences in our life. We've so often talked about the fire that came and took away our home when our son was just 11 days old, and having the right attitude about that. But over and over and over again, incidents have come. So I'll just describe one that is a smaller thing. It isn't a major thing, but I think that it demonstrates kind of a better way, because attitudes are built in small steps, generally speaking. It doesn't come in a great, huge thing. And so there was a time when somebody was misbehaving, and many, many people were upset with this person. And Swami said, well, I'll talk with them. And then Swami, we expected Swami was going to call them in and give them a good scolding for their behavior. It was exactly the opposite. Swami called them in and asked them to come to dinner and just talked with them like a close friend, and they ate together and laughed together, and he just gave energy to that person. I don't think it changed her behavior very much. But what Swami was saying to the rest of us is that you don't improve a person's attitude by suppressing them or by even chastising them, unless that person has really asked you to do it. Wasn't that Swami was afraid to correct us? He definitely would correct us, but this person had not really given him the permission to do so. She was too fragile to take real correction. That's why she had that behavior. So Swami, in doing that, was teaching us the right attitude. Be supportive to a person, even if you're trying to help them overcome something negative. And that's just one incident out of many, many of the same kind of lesson, where rather than negating a person, he supported a person. And generally speaking, I must say that she was the odd person out. Generally speaking, that support did help people change, did help them get the right attitude.
So I'm trying to, I mean, as we say, there's so many stories of how right attitude can turn around a difficult situation. I'll give one story. Some of you know this, but it was a charming episode. We were going on a skiing trip up into the mountains with Swamiji, and he was driving. At that time, he still drove. And then as we got into the higher mountains, it started snowing very heavily. And the car, there were all these signs along the side of the road, put on chains, put on chains. And the car went into a tailspin, and we stopped. Swami hit the brakes to pull over and put on the chains. And the tires were very bald. And so the car went into a tailspin and just crashed into a big public bus that was parked along the side of the road. And nobody was hurt. The car it was an old car. It was pretty much destroyed, had to be towed away. So we got out, we discerned that no one was hurt. And then Swami looked up at this bus and he said, "Oh, look, the bus is going to right to the ski lodge that we wanted to go to. Let's just get on the bus." So we got our suitcases out of the car and climbed onto the bus. And the people on the bus who had seen it said, "Oh, your vacation's ruined now, and it's too bad." And Swami said, "In a week, I'd feel just fine about it. Why waste a week?" And in fact, it was true. We just went up, and the car wasn't worth much anyway. But it just was like, you could have been destroyed by that, or you could have just had the right attitude. It was our bad karma to be in that accident, but we didn't let that stop us. And so it's, to expect that everything will go smoothly not only is it misleading to you, but it would be a pretty boring life if everything went well all the time. And so when things go wrong, just to say, okay, I can't change the outside, but I can change my attitude about it. And then everything changes.
Actually, I'm not sure that it was bad karma to be in that accident. I think we've gotten more mileage out of that story than we would have out of the car.
It's true. It's true. Okay, so
somebody wrote in the chat a question, and I think you sort of answered it, but if you elaborate on it a little bit, and it says, how does one move toward a positive attitude when you've gone through a tough time, or tough times?
Well, there are layers of how to answer that. The kind of first layer might be that you just do things that help you be more joyful or be more energetic. If it's maybe a tough time has been a health issue, you try to get out, do some activity, get some energy flowing, and get some positive flow of energy. Might be simply being with a friend that you enjoy being in their presence. Might be singing or chanting or listening to music. So there are many outer things that can help you to lift your mood a little bit. And once the mood is lifted, then it is easier to have a right attitude. If you're a little bit more, one might say, philosophical and detached, it can help to do some self-analysis on why was that a tough time for me? What am I attached to in that? Am I attached to my physical health? I know philosophically that I'm not the body. So why should I make such a big deal out of my health? Swami was a great example of going through lots of health challenges. and not making much out of it. So if you're a little more detached from involvement in it, then you can look at your definition of a tough time and what is it that is making you think it's a tough time. And once you identify that, then offer that to God to be free of it. Maybe it's attachment, maybe it's tendency toward moods, maybe whatever it is, there's something that makes that. Master said that all circumstances are neutral. It's our reaction to them that make them positive or negative. So here the question is, what in you is making that circumstance be defined as a tough time or as negative? And find out what that attitude is, and then offer it up to God, especially in meditation. Try to offer everything, including all attachments and all energies. And then the third thing I'll say is that one of the very, very best cures for going through a tough time is to help somebody else that's going through a tough time. If you give away that which you're wanting, you're going to benefit from it. So whatever you're going through, find somebody else to help. We had a wonderful example of that in our ashram in Gurgaon, where one of the members lost a father and a son within 2 weeks. And it was, of course, devastating. This was at the time when COVID was at its height, and there were many people calling. And Ananda had started a 24-hour hotline for people to call in. So right away, this man asked if he could be one of the people manning that hotline, because he had just lost his son and lost his father, and he wanted to help those who were suffering. Beautiful, beautiful attitude.
You know, I'll pick it up from a slightly different string. I remember when I had just been at Ananda, been on the spiritual path a few years, circumstances came about, and I was very discouraged and depressed, and I wasn't thinking of leaving, but I was very unhappy. And someone asked me at that time, I don't know if people knew, I didn't talk about it, but they said, oh, I'm the one who usually brings Swami his mail, but I have to do something else. Can you bring him his mail? So I thought, okay, I'll just bring it over, leave it on this little table by the door, and then scuttle away. And so I did that. I opened the door, and he was always writing. He was at his typewriter at that point. And he just sort of glanced up when I came in, and then he looked at me, and he was in silence. He gestured to come over. He took out the piece of paper he was typing, the book he was writing, stuck in a little piece of notepaper to the typewriter, and he just typed in, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you." Took it out of the typewriter, handed it to me, and I knew I was dismissed then. And then he put his paper back in and kept typing. But really, that's the secret. You know, the spiritual life is about holding the consciousness here. And if we can do that and see the world, see everyone, every circumstance, every loss, every pain, see it from the highest perspective, and everything shifts then. And if you seek God first, then that's why when you ask long-term devotees, well, how do you deal with pain and suffering? It's like, it's kind of hard to remember when you had pain and suffering. You have to go back a long time. But why are our lives somehow, exceptional? No. If you seek God first, everything will be added to you. And what does that mean? It means the ability to have the strength and the devotion and the joy and the persistence and the determination to just live life as victorious warriors. And so if we just get caught up in, oh, this person hurt me, or that happened, it will never end. It's endless. But if you can just say, I can't change this world, but I can go within and I can seek God, and then everything changes. And someone asked a question, please give explicit and clear ways to detach and still be able to love. Well, that's what we're talking about. That detachment comes from your relationship with God. And when you know that you have an unbreakable, eternal bond of love and devotion in your heart for God, then whatever people do, we've told this story before, but it's a good illustration. There was, when the Chinese invaded Tibet, they tortured and imprisoned many of the lamas and the monks and the nuns. And there was one man who had been in prison for a long time and been tortured, a monk. Finally, he was released. There was a big public outcry, and he saw the Dalai Lama, and the Dalai Lama was speaking with him, and he said, that must have been very difficult for you. And he said, oh, yes, Master, it was very difficult. And the Dalai Lama said, you must have been afraid for your life.
Were you ever in danger?
Yeah, were you ever in danger? Thank you. And he said, oh, yes, I was in danger. And he said, in danger of losing your life? He said, oh, that didn't bother me. I was in danger. There were moments when I almost lost compassion for the man that was torturing me. And, life is, there are spiritual heroes out there. They're not extraordinary human beings. They're you and they're me. They've just made a choice. They've made a choice to just live the life that God has told us how to live it. And if you do that, then as Swami's song, every Nightingale, every grief, every wrong has its ending in song.
There's almost like a little error in the way this question is asked. To detach and still be able to love. Loving and being detached are not related to each other. You can love very deeply. We read a very nice line in a book that was talking about a great saint, Nimkarili Baba. And this man said, he loved everyone. He said, that didn't surprise me. That's the job of a saint, is to love everyone. He said, what surprised me is that in his presence, I loved everyone. And other of his disciples, they loved everyone. And so when love expands, it becomes detached from the personal aspect. So explicit ways of being detached, don't take things so personally. Don't say because something is happening, oh, it's happening to me. Oh, it's terrible. Oh, I don't like this. Oh, it's wonderful. Don't take it so personally. It's just happening, and have a little bit of a distance from it, as if it were happening to your brother or your uncle. And if something happened to him, then you'd say, oh, well, that's too bad. Get over it. Well, think of yourself that way, and get a little distance. It's being too reactive that causes attachment, but that has nothing to do with whether you love people or not.
This morning, see, we're at nighttime. So anyway, our morning time, we had a satsang with many young people from Ananda, from around the world. And someone asked us a really nice question that I had never, I don't remember anyone ever asking us this before. They said, can you describe, have you ever felt God's love, and can you describe it? That's a good question.
Yeah.
And it made me think, because sometimes you take it for granted. And what I realized is that divine love, and this is what we're talking about here, it has a personal and an impersonal quality. Swami, our master, described Anandamoy Ma, the paradox of omnipresence, which she made you feel like she was your dearest friend, but at the same time, she was one with infinity. And so to feel God's love, it's both of those. It's very, very personal. And at the same time, it's very, very vast and impersonal. And it makes you realize that, as Master described in his experience in cosmic consciousness, that the center of the Imperium, the center of all creation, was a point of intuitive perception in the human heart. And so we have to understand that our humanity, our love for one another, the pain that we receive in this life from other people or circumstances, all of these are a portal to experience our own infinity. And so it's really well worth reaching for, to try to feel God's love more and more in every aspect of your life.
There are a few more questions, but I was thinking of one. Anything that stood out to you, Narayan?
You can start.
I will
can
start.
have
Okay. Just yesterday, we were going through the autobiography of the yogi, and we were on the chapter of Babaji's interest in the West, and Sri Yukteswarji was explaining how he was at the Kumbh Mela, and he was just kind of judging everyone a little bit and saying, I don't know if these guys are really spiritual. Isn't it better, all these Western scientists and so on and so forth? And Babaji, of course, corrects that attitude in him. And what we found very interesting was that Lahiri Mahashaya was also at a Kumbh Mela previously and going through the exact same thought. And once again, Babaji had to kind of be there and correct that judgmental attitude. And he talked about humility being so important. Somebody writes here, of course, they're taking it to a little bit of an extreme. How does one hold positive thoughts towards those people who are trying to kill humanity? But even if we don't go that far, this judgmental attitude, or just this idea that every time we look at people, we need to have thoughts about them. We need to really describe them in our minds, or we need to box them into certain ideas in our minds. I mean, it's so subtle, but somehow it's such a natural thing to do. Even if we don't have to go all the way to, say, a terrorist group or somebody who's trying to kill humanity, just our own loved ones every day. How would somebody work on that judgmental or comparative attitude that seems, even to a certain degree, harmless, but it just builds up over time?
Yeah, it's a very, very good and subtle question. These are changing not only deep-rooted personal habits, but it's how to detach from, one might say, universal train of thought. You know, there are certain compelling forces in the universe that keep Maya, keep the whole show of manifestation going. And one of them is individualization. And within that, there is just a tendency to think I'm right and they're wrong. It's part of self-preservation. It's part of dominance. It's part of lots of other very basic primordial urges in a person. If we're going to try to fight against those big forces, I would say that two things help. One, don't take on the biggest problem. Don't take on, how am I going to be non-judgmental toward a serial killer? That's not the place to start. That's like saying, I learned how to crawl last week. I think I'm going to go climb Mount Everest. Take on something that you can take on when you just learn to crawl. So take on little things that you're judgmental about, little problems, and correct yourself as soon as you make a determination in the morning that I know that I will probably be judgmental today, but today I'm going to try to be aware of the fact that I'm being judgmental. And then as soon as I'm aware of it, I'm going to counteract it with a positive attitude about that which I'm judging. So you have to start with little things. Then the other end of the spectrum is in deep meditation or at the end of your meditation, give everything to God, including your judgment.
Someone told me recently that if you point your finger at somebody and blame, that 3 fingers are pointing back at yourself.
And one is
And
pointing
one's-
up toward God.
Right, right. So we have a friend who very funny, very good soul. She said, whenever I start criticizing somebody, she like, oh, that person never does what they say they're going to do. And then she'll always add, just like me. Whatever she criticizes, just like me. And it just, it's a silly practice in a way, but at the same time, it reminds you that, as Christ said in the Bible, he who is without sin, let him cast the first stone. Who are we to judge anybody? I mean, we've got so much flaws in ourselves. Get to work on and so whenever you start to criticize somebody, just turn it around and say, what am I going to work on today? Where are my flaws? Where are my shortcomings? Because criticizing others doesn't get you anywhere. Self-transformation gets you everywhere. And so just turn it around. And when you point the finger, realize 3 more are pointing back at you and one's asking God for help.
And in fact, Swami told us that if you judge somebody or if you have a negative reaction toward something that somebody does, that's because you have not overcome that tendency in yourself. Otherwise, you just discriminate. He used the example of smoking. If you've recently quit smoking and you see someone else who's smoking, you judge them for it. But years later, you see someone smoking, you don't judge them for it. You just know, you know that that's not a healthy habit. It's not good for them to do, but you don't have that desire in yourself to want to judge somebody. Well, none of us want to be, the terrible people that are the worst examples of mankind, but we have little echoes of wanting to dominate others, of wanting to do whatever it takes to get ahead, whatever it might be. And if we're judging them, then we have little echoes of that tendency within ourselves. So discrimination, yes. Judgment, no.
There's a question that came up. There's a lot of comments and questions, and thank you for your kindness. But just someone said, simple practical guidelines for dealing with meditation in the evening when you're tired. It's something that, we all deal with. And if you could, what we try to do generally is we meditate before dinner, because then we have more energy. And so that's something that if that doesn't work for you, if the only time you have to meditate is after dinner, you're late, it's tired, you want to get to bed, then just try to make what Swami told us, that he said, make a commitment that you can stick to, beyond which you will not go. So maybe you say, I will do 14 kriyas. I know I can do it, and I won't go less than that. If I can do more, I'll do more. So make a minimal commitment that you know you can do and stick to it. And the more you form that habit, the more your consciousness will be drawn at that time of the day. Oh yes, kriya. Oh yes, kriya. and it will create a pattern that'll make it easier. So form good habits, find a time when you aren't tired if you can, and then do a minimal amount that you can't go below.
So yeah, it's Sergio and Narayani. Narayani, it seemed like you had a question.
Well, yes, perhaps the last question. We don't want to keep you awake for too long. But what do you think is the main quality or attitude that Ananda, as a movement, as disciples of Yogananda, as lovers of God, and those who really want to do the journey of self-transformation, what can we add to the world? What is the main quality or attitude you think each one of us is responsible for to bring into the world? What do you think the masters could bring more of to this world through each one of us?
You know, there's no one attitude that fits for everyone, but each of us will have certain qualities or certain strengths that are particularly strong within us. And one of the beautiful things about Ananda is community. And so if one person tries to display all of the proper attitudes, they're going to be strong in some and not so strong in others. But you get a group of people together, and somebody in that group has a real strength in some aspect of the spiritual path. And so one of the gifts of Ananda to the world is community, joyful community, community that works, that makes life better on all levels, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, that makes life happier and more fun, all of these things. And as a collected group, we have a lot of power and a lot of gifts to offer the world, more than we would as any single individual. The other thing that Swami often pointed out, that if you see, if you see a truly exceptional individual, the tendency is to say that person is wonderful or exceptional. But if you see a whole group, then the tendency is to say that group must be doing something that makes them exceptional. And in a certain sense, that's a better model than to have one or two individually exceptional people. So each of us has a gift to offer the world, and collectively, that gift can really be world changing.
You know, recently we were talking with our some of the members here who are responsible for our online training and teaching. And, you know, before the pandemic, when we could be more out and about in the public, all of our teachers, we would get good numbers for our online classes, discipleship and Kriya preparation, Kriya, meditation. But then when the pandemic hit, the numbers, they're like 5 times what they were before. It's pretty amazing. But we were talking with the man who does discipleship training, and he said really that they're getting like 5 times as many people taking discipleship vows as they did a year ago. And I asked him, why? What do people say that they're getting? And he just, without pausing, he said, the most common feedback we get is that we have been divine friends to them, that they've got teachings from other groups, other branches of Master's teachings, but they never found people that were their divine friends, that were there for them, that cared about them. And so when Narayani, when you ask Ananda's mission, I think one, it's for each of us as individuals to take responsibility for our own spiritual journey and our quest to go as deep and sincere in that as we can. And then feeling God's love in our heart to be there for everybody. It's what we've been talking about over and again. Be a divine friend. I think that's to bring joy, friendship and joy as divine carrier waves from our guru to everybody that comes to us. Once Swami was asked, what's Ananda's mission? And he said, to equalize the world, the negative with joy. And so and then he said, you might say, but we're such a small group. There are millions of people that are not, billions of people not doing that. But he said, it doesn't matter the numbers, it's the intensity of focus. So if we can be focused on our attunement with God and Guru, and then sharing that joy and that love with everyone, I think that's Ananda's mission.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much for that. Would you like to just end us by sharing that joy, sharing that friendship, all of us together? There are almost 200 of us gathered. Be lovely to be able to do that together.
As a prayer, you mean?
Yeah. Would you like to end with
Okay.
prayer so that maybe I didn't make myself clear enough?
Yeah.
I thought, oh, what are we going to say hello to everybody? But I do want to take a moment to, there's so many dear friends that I see, Amit and your wife and Haridas and Roma. Good luck with your move. We saw Harish this morning at the other satsang, and he said, you're packing up now to move into the new ashram. So many blessings with that move, and Lakshmi Priya, and so many of you, Anjali. I just wish we could say hi to you all. But just to let you know that, and somebody's very good at bouncing a ball too.
Yeah.
And it's okay. So just to give you all our love, and then let's, oh, and Kantaji. I can't not say, give my love to Kanta and Neela. Bless you all. Okay, so let's close with the prayer. Oh, Elango.
So many.
So many.
Oh, if we keep doing this, we won't be able to stop. So we give our love to all of you, dear
Oh,
friends.
my goodness. God bless you. Master is so pleased to see his children in India coming back into a higher spirituality beyond just forms. So, is that the end of the meeting?
I didn't do anything.
Okay.
So
Did I?
no, it's still going on.
Okay. Okay, so let's just close with a prayer. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, great masters, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Shri Yukteswar, beloved Guru, Paramahamsa Yogananda, saints of all religions, beloved Swami Kriyananda, we humbly bow to you all. Beloved Guru, we offer our lives to thee. Lift us up from sorrow to joy. Remind us that we are but a bubble of joy in your ocean of bliss. Awaken us to our oneness with thee. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Okay. Goodbye, everyone, and God bless you.
Good night. Have a
Thank
lovely
you.
evening. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.
Guru.
Jai Guru.
Jai Guru.